Mr. Marchionne, will you please join me? President Simon, I present Sergio Marchionne for the honorary degree, Doctor of Engineering.
You are a leader of one of the most well-known vehicle manufacturing conglomerates in the world. As Chair and CEO of the Chrysler Group and CEO of Fiat, as well as several related company entities, you have earned a global admiration for returning your companies to profitability during a time of great economic challenge. You are a multinational leader. You're a native of Italy and grew up in Canada. You're a member of the board of Peterson Institute for International Economics and chair of the Italian branch of the Council of the United States and Italy. You're a barrister, a solicitor, a chartered accountant, even having earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Philosophy and Economics from the University of Toronto, a Bachelor of Law from York University in Toronto, and an MBA and a Bachelor of Commerce from the University of Windsor. Among your many honors, you hold the Italian National Order of Chivalry for those meritorious in agriculture, industry, and commerce crafts, leading, lending, and insurance. In 2011, you were awarded a Columbia Business School's Deming Cup for operational excellence and fostering a culture of continuous improvement in your enterprise. For your admirable leadership in challenging times and your commitment to multicultural collegial style of problem solving that we inspire to model for the engineers of the future, I am pleased to award you the honorary degree Doctor of Engineering from Michigan State University.
President Simon, Acting Provost Stewart, Vice President Shu, Honorary Degree recipient William White, members of the Board of Trustees, faculty, proud parents, and above all, graduates. The first thing I want to say is to thank you for this great honor for which I'm deeply grateful. In reality, the accomplishments that you attribute to one man really are the result of the courage, the passion, and the commitment of some 215,000 of my colleagues and collaborators of Fiat Chrysler across the world, people who have chosen with unwavering determination to restore pride and credibility to our group. And so it's on their behalf that I accept this honorary degree. But it was important for me to be here also because Chrysler has incredibly close ties with MSU. There are 618 MSU graduates who are currently working within our group, and this year we've employed 54 MSU students as interns, more than from any other university anywhere. And so Chrysler is involved with numerous activities with university, including the MSU Marketing Association, the Broad Executive Forum, and as a sponsor of 2 engineering capstone projects. And for today's graduates, I believe that your experience in this sort of environment will make it much easier for you to transition into the next phase of your life. You are graduates today in many different areas, but what binds you together now and for many years to come is the fact that you're all Spartans. And when I hear the word Spartan, I can't help but think of the famous Battle of Thermopylae nearly 2,500 years ago. And probably all of you know the story of the battle in which 300 Spartans fought to the last man to hold off a Persian army of an estimated 250,000 men for 3 days of fighting. And I understand that in your football games, you even use a scene from the movie 300 as a rallying cry. But Thermopylae was a narrow pass between the mountains and the sea, and the Spartans chose the strategic spot to defend against the Persian invasion. And the battle was credited with saving Greek civilization, thus enabling the radical ideas of freedom and democracy to find room to flourish. The Spartans ultimately lost the battle, but they gave other Greeks time to prepare defenses and inspired them to eventually turn back the invasion. Those Spartans embodied human traits that are timeless: courage, teamwork, and selflessness. And I'd like to speak to you about these three values and why I hope that they will always stay with you and inspire you. The Spartans demonstrated immense courage in taking on overwhelming odds. In the years to come, you will need the same fortitude to lead positive change. Your educational experiences have provided you with more than just the credentials to enter the world of work. They've enabled you the opportunity to acquire the tools, both cultural and human, to face all the complexities of life. You've been equipped with the means to lead change in what is becoming an incredibly complex world. And the truth is that we actually need you to do so. Change is inevitable, but your actions will help determine the shape and the course of that change. In the era that we're living through, an era of incredibly rapid globalization, the organizations that survive will be those that have leaders who are open to new perspective and are not afraid of change. Teamwork is the second element that enabled the historic Spartans to make their mark on history. They worked together in a very innovative, tight-knit formation in which each soldier was accountable in helping to protect the man next to him. Now, what I've learned from all my years as chief executive is that culture is the fabric that holds organizations together. And this fabric is woven together. It is woven together continuously by members of a group and not by deeds of a single individual. The era of the great man, of a greater-than-life individual who working alone cures all the ills of an organization is now finally dead. And the great man has been replaced by great groups who are able to accomplish much more than talented people working alone. And so your ability to work with others will go a long way in determining your effectiveness, whether in your career or in your involvement in a social cause. Great groups are led by men and women with the extraordinary capacity to bring out the best in others, help them build self-confidence and grow as professionals and, even more importantly, as human beings. Men and women who are capable, above all, of creating teams that succeed through what the American leadership expert Walter Bennis calls creative collaborations. Selflessness is the third and perhaps the most important quality that distinguished Spartans at Thermopylae. Even though they faced certain death, they understood that they were advancing the long-term objective of protecting Greek freedom. And they made their decision based on the needs of their society. They showed in an exemplary way that the future is not just the responsibility of governments. It is the duty of every person at every level. And we have a duty to commit to what we're able to do to dedicate our individual skills and talents in uniting the best of society and to work together to achieve higher objectives. If you see injustice, you have the choice to take action or to just stand by idly. If you choose to use your voice on behalf of those who have no voice, if you choose to identify yourself not only with the powerful but also with the weak, if you keep the capacity to put yourselves in the shoes of those who do not have the same comfort and the same well-being, then it will not just be your family that will be thankful for your existence, but thousands of people whose lives you will have helped to turn into something better. Courage, teamwork, and selflessness are the fundamental elements that create great organizations. But the point now is not only to understand how the Spartans, who were greatly outnumbered, managed to hold back the Persians for so long. The point is to understand why they did that. Why 300 people decided to fight to the death in one of the most famous and heroic gestures of our history. And the answer to this question is the key to understanding the essence of leadership. These men did not set out to be martyrs. They were warriors, of course, and sons of a very strong military culture. But they were also fathers, and they were chosen among those who had at least one son in order to carry on their legacy. The truth is that those 300 men were following their leader in a total and unconditional way. And they were following him because they believed in him. They trusted him. Leonidas was not just a king or a commander-in-chief. He was one of the great leaders in history. And when you're able to build and nurture trust in people, they feel encouraged to develop both their professional qualities as well as their human abilities. They follow you not just because they're obliged to, but because it is simply what they want to do. And during today's ceremony, we paid tribute to Nelson Mandela, whose life had such a profound effect on the world. Mandela was an example of great leadership in today's world. He had a big dream, a dream that was based on respect and acceptance of every person. People in his own country and around the world followed him because his vision of equality struck a chord. And his generous words of actions, even to those who had imprisoned him, appealed to the best parts of our shared humanity. He changed the world during his time on earth, and he reminded us that we can do the same by emulating his concern for justice and his concern for dignity for everyone. I was fortunate enough to be in the audience when Mandela spoke in 1999 at the World Economic Forum in Davos, a forum that was dedicated to dealing with the effects of globalization. And his words are worth repeating here because I believe they address ultimately humanity's real challenge. He said, "Is globalization only to benefit the powerful and the financiers, the speculators, investors, and the traders? Does it offer nothing to the men, women, and children who are ravaged by the violence of poverty? You will therefore understand why this old man, to whom you've granted the privilege of bidding you farewell in the twilight of his public life and at the turn of the century, has raised such very practical matters of unfinished business." And Mandela was ultimately trusted by the world. Trust is essential in leading change and leading people to do things with a sense of mission, bringing conviction and belief and devotion to the effort. But as we have seen in Mandela's own life, it's not easy to build that trust. You have to do it by example. Leonidas didn't issue orders to his men. He stood with them against the Persians. Like Mandela and Leonidas, the best leaders craft dreams, they propose visions. The 300 deployed at Thermopylae were moved by the vision that Leonidas had designed for Greece, the vision of a country that was free from any invader. And that mission is what gave a deeper meaning to their fight and ultimately to their lives. Above all, trust is built upon moral conduct. Leonidas rejected one of the most tempting proposals in history to his opponents that offered him the kingship of all Greece if only he would submit and ally himself with Persia. Leonidas replied, "If you knew what is honorable in life, you would avoid lusting after what belongs to others. For me, it is better to die for Greece than to be a monarch over my compatriots." And for all these reasons, Leonidas was true and a great leader. He took on himself the responsibility of the final decision. He guided and he assisted his men, and he set the strategy for battle in an unconventional and unexpected way. And in so doing, he inspired his men to emulate him. He inspired them to take on an active role in shaping their dream. And that is why ultimately leadership is a sacred trust. Now you may very well ask, what does Chrysler have to do with all this? Chrysler is just one of the many examples of an organization that was able to turn its fate around. When Chrysler Group was formed 4.5 years ago in alliance with Fiat, very few people were willing to bet $1 on its survival. As one observer put it, Chrysler is most likely to be liquidated for 3 sticks of gum and a roll of pennies. But we dare to dream big, and we have begun delivering on that dream. We're now profitable. We've announced investments of more than $5.2 billion. We have added more than 22,000 jobs, and our U.S. sales have increased now for 44 consecutive months. Now, I'm not saying these things just to brag about our accomplishment, but to give you an idea of how deep an impact leadership can have on an organization. Chrysler needed to regain faith in itself and start viewing the future as a phenomenal opportunity. It needed to realize that the power to reverse our fate and to create an organization we will be proud of was totally and completely in our hands. Our accomplishments are attributable first and foremost to the mindset and capabilities, both technical and cultural, of our leaders. These are courageous individuals who have an appetite for challenge and who will shape their own future. It is because of these leaders people able to grow outstanding teams and guide them to exceed both the targets and ultimately themselves, that Chrysler is back in the game, surprising so many people who had condemned us to death way too soon. Now, before closing, I'd like to add one final thought and one exhortation. This is a crucial moment, and the world needs your talent, it needs your energies, your passion, and your commitment. The education that you have earned doesn't just serve you or your family, it has the power to serve the community as a whole. We need no magic to change the world. We already have all the power that we need. It's inside us. It's the power to imagine things in a better way. The legacy of the historical Spartans is that they gave the last full measure of devotion to create a better world. And that is why it's important to sustain that optimism, that sense of confidence in ourselves and in the future. It's important to keep going and to keep passions alive. In my life, I've never ever seen anyone make a dream come true without making the commitment to never stop fighting to make it real. The name you carry, Spartans, goes far beyond a great college football team that is going to the Rose Bowl. It goes far beyond the association with an excellent college, one that since 1855 has helped to democratize higher education and advance the common good. Being Spartans is a way of living life to the fullest with the disruptive forces of a community that was a cradle of our civilization. Now I wish you all a life as Spartans and wage the good fight with courage, with teamwork, and with selflessness. And I also wish you to become one day a Leonidas. Thank you very much, and once more my congratulations to each and every one of you.
Thank you. We will now have the pleasure of hearing the MSU Jazz Orchestra 1, the Bebop Spartans, under the direction of University Distinguished Professor